speed and practice over the last few days, he's anticipated to actually be fine for 3rd overall in his class. The big thing, though, is that the LMP2 category, Critical on pole, Brooksy, Sunshine Grizz, and newcomer TVR, all these LMP2 drivers are going to be within a small number of seconds of the DPIs. Any DPI has issues, there's a high likelihood that they will be behind the LMP2s for good, especially considering the LMP2s are only mandated to make 2 stops in the race, while DPIs will still have to make 3. In the GT class, Scored Buffalo still has the pole. RZ, Brett, and U5 are right behind him. This is the duos of the Chevys versus the BMW that were running at the front at the end of last week's COTA race. Buffalo barely came out on top there. It's not known if he's going to be able to do it here, because this track is expected to favor the Chevys a lot more than any other track on the schedule. Of note, though, Prius Killer really not having a great time in the Dodge. He's hoping he can turn things around. And Ludacris and Shredder, who have been pulling off relatively good top 5 finishes, they're qualifying near the back of the GT field, so keep an eye on that fight as well. But right now, just about everyone is ready to get underway for today's event. Again, 18 drivers, and again, I cannot stress this enough, big thank you to AK1975. Although his services have not been needed yet thus far in the season, he has gone ahead and vote and allowed himself to be the pace car for the field, and that will likely come into play in today's event. He will be the one who will set the field under the initial out lap, and then in the case of any yellow flags. Other note, 90 laps plus 1 flying lap, there is a high likelihood we could see a lot of yellow flags in today's race. We may not have a very high lap counter, a final lap counter that we hit in today's event. So we now prepare to get underway for the race itself. I'm going to go ahead and bring up a 90-minute clock. Here we are. 90-minute clock should be ready to go now. Also, this is a very short track as well, not quite 2 miles from end to end. So with that in mind as well, you also come into an interesting little scenario where lap traffic will become a factor. Not nearly as quick as you think, because the GT cars aren't that far off of DPI paces either, but when you do catch the slower traffic, you're going to be dealing with them for a long time. I got a chance to do some practice with the DPI drivers yesterday and also experiment against the GT cars. It will take you about half of a fuel stint in the DPI class, so about 12 to 14 laps to properly catch the GT field. And then once you catch the GT field, overtaking them is going to be very difficult. The entire circuit, from about the exit of turn 1 all the way until you start getting onto those shorter mini straights, the entire fountain section, basically, it's impossible to pass on because the speed differentials and the corner speed differentials just aren't great enough amongst these cars. You get trapped, and if you're in the P2 or the DPI category, and if you get trapped behind GT cars, or if you're in the DPI and you get trapped behind LMP2s in that section of the track, there could be a big problem. And that leads into the other thing. LMP2s are significantly faster, again, than DPI through the corners here. But the last few weeks, it's not been too much of a problem. This time around, yes, the DPIs are faster over an entire lap here, but they make up all that time in the last 25 meters of the back straightaway and about the final third of the main straight. Otherwise, P2s are faster than DPIs here. Actually getting ahead of LMP2s, if they end up ahead of you, is going to be very difficult. There is a very high likelihood that if we have a lot of yellow flags today, LMP2s could end up in the overall race win for today's event. So that kind of runs you down through all the big things we have to consider going into the event. We're just waiting to get underway for the race. It will be a 90-minute race plus 1 lap at the end of it, per usual. And honestly, there is a high likelihood that we have no idea who's going to win in any of the categories. GT is likely going to be a little bit more straightforward. It's likely going to be another fight between the Chevys and the BMW of Scored Buffalo versus Brett and U5. But amongst the P2s and the DPI class, anyone could win, because all it would take is your current leader overall, Arsenal, who has the pole, to pit at the end of lap 1. Like the challenge says, no yellow flags. He may struggle significantly making his way through the field. Dino Prime does not feel confident in today's race. Tact1cal Fall0ut does feel moderately confident, and Schumacher has closed the gap significantly down compared to the other people he's been running with in practice. And again, traffic could be a big role here. Traffic's going to have a larger knock-on effect for the top class than anywhere else. In the LMP2 class, LMR Critical expected to still be the fastest here, but again, being able to overtake GTs are going to be very hard. GTs will have comparable speed in the straightaways, and LMP2s can't just easily overtake in the corners like they have been able to do against the GTs across most of the rest of the season. So it's going to be very interesting as we prepare to get underway. 18-car field in today's race. We'll go ahead and real quickly run you from the back of the grid to the front here. Once we're on the track, that is. And again, we will be going green when the leader of the DPI class hits the start-finish line. All right, and last place, our 18th place starter is Prius Killer here in the Viper. He's going to be back there alongside Ludicrous Speed in the Ford GT. We thought this track would favor him, but he's really struggled to get a good setup here. Shredder in the BMW. He's going to be starting the 16th position. 15th alongside him is going to be TTJ111 in the Porsche. 14th overall is going to be Rockmaro here as we see him going underneath the bridge. He's going to be there with larrybtheg, who is going to be 13th starting overall in that Red Bull-sponsored Ferrari. Then U5, he's going to be 3rd starter in the GT category. 2nd place on the front row is going to be Brett in the other Chevrolet GT, and leading on the pole is going to be Scored Buffalo. The fight has gotten very, very tight, though, in the GT category. In LMP2, the newcomer is LMP TVR. He'll be starting 9th. 8th will be Grizz. There in the 33, 7th overall, and 3rd in class will be Mr. Sunshine, 2nd in LMP2 class, and on the front row, oh wow, and PSUK Brooksy has had an accident under the safety car, and this could have some negative effects going forward. He's going to have to rush to catch the rest of the field here. LMR Critical starting at front. And then we look at our DPI category real quickly. Schumacher, the only Ford again in today's event. He'll be starting 4th in the category. He'll be alongside Donna Prime in the Chevrolet. 2nd overall is going to be Tact1cal Fall0ut. Tact going to be in that black machine. And then once again, Arsenal starting the pole, but Arsenal does not have a proper tune set up on the car. He's going to be way faster than everyone else because he doesn't have the downforce everyone else does, but he's also going to be a lot slower in the corners as they come to the green flag here and be prepared to get to the line. And the 90-minute clock will begin shortly here. And we're underway here, and right off the bat, Arsenal has a good run. Dino actually gets by Tact1cal Fall0ut as they're neck and neck for the 2nd position. But in the lead, it is Arsenal side by side behind for the Chevys, and it looks like the top 4 in your DPI class will all get through without issues. The P2s all get through without issue. What about our GT category? Side by side, Chevrolet barely just touches the wall. He's side by side still at the BMW. Oh, and there's larrybtheg. He's going to get through. TJ's going to try and work his way up, and they're struggling, but it looks like they're just barely going to get the entire GT field through the fountain section somehow. Incredible fighting there right now. At the front, though, it is Arsenal who leads overall in the DPI class. Where is he going to come out when he makes his stop? And in the LMP2 category, PSUK Brooksy is making a run on Critical, and in this fight, it looks like Brooksy is ahead of Critical. So great job on Brooksy's part, getting ahead of Critical in this category. He now sets his sights on the DPIs. Critical's going to try and fight back here. And there we see our overall DPI class leader make the overtake. Brooksy holds on to the lead just barely. As we look now back to the GT category, Scored Buffalo has the lead in GT, but he's being heavily pressured by RZM Brett. And look at TJ, he's made his way up into 3rd. Very impressive job. And it's going to be very bad for the DPI of Arsenal. You can see him coming down pit lane. It looks like nearly the entire, if not the actual entire GT category is going to end up ahead of him. There's one other car in GT who is making the same call. That's Prius Killer, is also making the lap 1 pit stop challenge. So at the front in DPI, it is Tact1cal Fall0ut, followed by Donald Prime and Schumacher SF7. 3 of them all relatively close to each other at the moment, and they're all starting to open a gap on the P2s as PSUK Brooksy continues to fight for the P2 category lead. He runs right behind LMR Critical down the back straightaway. Not close enough to make a move. And then for third in the category, it's Mr. Sunshine and LMP Grizz. Sunshine a little bit faster through the corners, but I think Grizz may have the advantage in straightaway speed. And that straightaway speed advantage might be all that Grizz needs to hold on to position for now. As once again, GT category, Brett continues to run behind Scored Buffalo. And it's TJ in the Porsche. No, that's Larry B now. I'm sorry, the Ferrari has gotten by the Porsche, and Larry B the G has moved back up into third. U5 and the Chevy slipped down to fifth. He's gotten back to fourth now. But at the moment, it is Buffalo versus Brett leading in the GT category. Of note, Prius Killer, the GT, who went ahead and did that lap one stop for the Larry Perkins challenge, he is already back behind and been lapped by the DPIs, and now will be caught by the LMP2 shortly here. So this will be very interesting to watch. How much will Prius Killer end up holding up the LMP2s? You can see how quickly they close in the corners, but it's so hard to actually make overtake in corners here. This could be Brooksy's best chance to try and get by Critical. There is a bit of a breakaway in the top two in the GT category overall, though. Coming down into turn one, you can see Critical gets right behind the Dodge Viper, and that's not what he wanted to deal with. He will just barely outrun him into the fountain section, and now Critical is the one who's held up behind him. So Critical could not get by Prius in time. He's still struggling to get by, and Brooksy is there. Brooksy, we're seeing already lap traffic coming into play. Brooksy is able to close back in on Critical just because of one single GT car. Arsenal has already gotten by the GT of SRD Shredder. Now he looks at ludicrous speed. He'll get by him as well. Easy overtake there, but big lockup going into turn one. So he is definitely struggling, but I think that may be more due to the lack of tuning on that car rather than anything else at the moment. See Arsenal now closing in on TJ and Rockmar as those two are going side by side. He's going to outrun the GTs in a straight line. Again, DPI has an amazing advantage in a straight line, because Arsenal is not running any extra downforce compared to everyone else in the class. He is by far the fastest man in a straight line. He's already up into 13th. It looks like overtaking the GTs is not going to be an issue for Arsenal, simply because he's just so significantly faster. It's honestly unbelievable. Taps the inside wall there. He's already right there behind the Chevy of U5 and will get by him before they even get to the start-finish line. Now he's puts his focus on Larry B, who is third in GT category right now. You can see RZM Brett still trying to run down Scored Buffalo for lead of the GT class. Arsenal catches this duo in a not ideal place in the fountain section, so he'll lose a lot of time through here. He's going to have to wait to actually make this overtake happen. He'll go ahead and make the cut coming out of the fountain section. And out breaks Buffalo into the corner, and that made it very easy for Arsenal. So GT traffic not proving to be any issue for Arsenal here. While in the DPI category, Tact1cal Fall0ut leads. Dino Prime is second, with Schumacher continuing to hound him. Dino has fallen 2.5 seconds off of his teammate Tact1cal Fall0ut's lead at the moment. Schumacher not able to close in and make anything happen to Dino. For now, in the P2 class, LMR Critical has opened the gap back up against PSUK Brooksy. But for Critical, the big question is going to be when he catches the GTs, how quickly we'll be able to dispose of them, because we saw how much he was held up by them just going to the fountain section. It brought Brooksy right back up into the fray. For third in P2 class, Mr. Sunshine now navigating his way around that Viper of Prius. But he's opened up a nice, heavy, steady gap over LMP TVR and Grizz. Scored Buffalo continues to lead in the GT category. Brett brought the fight to Buffalo through the majority of last week's race at COTA, but he fell off pretty significantly in the final third, and instead it was U5 who brought the fight to him. U5, though, had that bad qualifying run last week, and because of that, he had to fight throughout the entire field, and by the time he caught Buffalo, there wasn't a whole lot left he could really do. He kind of burned everything up. Buffalo hits the wall, and that's the thing, the size of that BMW does seem to lead Buffalo into hitting walls a lot more often than we thought that he would around here. Top two continue to hold the gap over larrybtheg for the moment. You can see the BMW and Brett both take wildly different lines. One kind of diamonds off that final hairpin, while the other one wants to try and square it off as much as he can and try to keep momentum rolling through it. It's two very alternate runs that you can take through that corner. It's a lot more, you're a lot more able to take those kind of alternate setups in GT cars than you ever could in a prototype or an Indy car here, just due to how much slower and how much larger and heavier these cars are around here. There's not as much of momentum you can ideally conserve through those corners. It is a serious option to just go ahead, throw away the momentum that you may have had, and instead just go hard in a straight line. You see, Buffalo really bounces the car off of the curbs and lets Brett close back in a little bit. I do think, though, Buffalo has this advantage overall. The question is unsurprisingly going to be, what are we looking at when it comes to our DPI leaders and when they catch the GT field? Right now, that is Tact1cal Fall0ut who leads, and he's already caught and overtaken Rock Morrow. Now he looks at Ludicrous Speed. Now he looks at Shredder. He's going to be locked on the outside, though. This is not going to be an ideal line. A little bit of side-by-side. Tact1cal Fall0ut barely will navigate his way through the lap traffic. He's by, though. And this will work out for Dino Prime because Dino will catch almost all of this traffic in a straight line. He doesn't have to worry about being held up in the corners. And that will let him close in a bit on his rival Tact1cal Fall0ut. Schumacher is held up, though, in traffic, and this means Schumacher will be the one who will lose touch with Dino Prime because he's caught behind this entire field, basically the entire GT category, and this is not going to work well for him. He goes where he goes, takes the inside line, he gets by all three of them by about the time they get to the straightaway, but he has lost a massive amount of time to his class rivals. Dino Prime in second has now gotten the gap closed to 1.6 seconds out from Tact1cal Fall0ut. TJ's already cleared Tactical, though. Tactical has already gotten by TJ, and now Dino is the one held up by the Porsche. Struggling to find a way by. He'll go ahead and make that inside cut to get by him, but now the advantage swings back in Tact1cal Fall0ut's favor. Schumacher, though, now he catches TJ, and it looks like the gap's still less than 2 seconds, so Dino did make an overall advantageous move out of that, and there's still more traffic that Tac has to catch relatively shortly here. Shockingly, no yellow flags, no multi-car accidents thus far in the race. Tact1cal Fall0ut held up behind the Chevy U5 for just a moment going into the hairpin. And Dino is making his stop, as is Tact1cal Fall0ut, so this is the first stop for the DPIs, and that means it is Schumacher in the Ford who now inherits the race lead. His telemetry right now says that he has gone through 40% of his fuel, so he's going to be running his first stint long on gas compared to his rivals in the same category. This also means, though, that the DPIs of Tact1cal Fall0ut and Dino Prime are now going to be behind the LMP2s. And that could make things interesting because they'll be faster than the P2s in a straight line, but everywhere else, the P2s completely dominate them here. Schumacher now gets by U5 as he's inherited the lead, and you can see the continued fight for the GT class lead, but it's really not much of a direct fight. Brett just seems to be stalking Buffalo for the moment. And when Schumacher catches these drivers, it will officially put the entire GT category a lap down. Alright, and there it goes. Schumacher easily overtakes both Brett and Buffalo into straightaways. But now we go ahead and turn our focus to the LMP2 category battle. It's really not much of a battle at the front. Critical easily leads. Second place in this overall is PSUK Brooksy. Third overall is Mr. Sunshine, who has also opened up a gap on... and this is Arsenal. Actually, the DPI of Arsenal is already cleared LMP TVR and Grizz. So this could work out very well for Arsenal. He's already gotten by, officially, both Dino Prime and Tact1cal. Now, the difference, though, is that they only have 2 more stops to make. This man here will still have to make 3 more. So Arsenal could still end up behind them. Sunshine pushes Arsenal just a little bit aggressively going into 1, but Arsenal by without issue. Tact1cal Fall0ut is 3rd now overall in the DPI category. And his focus is going to have to be getting by the P2s with as much speed as possible. You can see LMP Grizz up there. That will be the first one that they catch. Ooh, Tact1cal Fall0ut does not seem to be as good clearing and trying to make that early run onto the straight as Dino Prime behind him is, and has brought the 77 behind him. So it is a fight for 3rd overall that could turn to a fight for a lead in the DPI class. Oh, Tact1cal Fall0ut really sideways out of the corner, and here comes Dino Prime. He's got to run. It's a drag race. Neck and neck for position. Dino has the inside line. Tact1cal Fall0ut sees the car sliding out, and Dino moves up ahead of Tact1cal Fall0ut. Tact's going to try and fight back, coming into the hairpin. Breaks early, holds the inside line, denies it to Dino. Dino, though, has a better time getting on the throttle as a drag race down the straightaway. Chevrolet versus Chevrolet teammates. Tac has the inside line. Dino has the... But Dino will now have the inside line as they go into braking. Dino will be the one who will brake early, though. Tact1cal Fall0ut gets the position. And again, Tac does not seem to be happy. That car of his is not happy by the looks of it. On new tires. He finally catches the LMP2 car of Grizz. What can he do to him? He needs to clear Grizz as soon as possible, so that way Dino doesn't close back in on him. It looks like Dino's starting to fall back off, so this might work out well enough for Tac. He'll catch Grizz and should be able to overtake him. Oh, Grizz! Right into the tire barrier, right in front of Tact1cal Fall0ut. Tac has to swerve to avoid, but he will clear him without issue, as I believe Dino will as well. Arsenal, now 3rd overall, 2nd in his class for the moment. When it comes to fuel consumption, though, he is at 6... sorry, that's Brooksy, not Arsenal. So I got the wrong guy there. Arsenal at 58% fuel wear. Tire life is going to be of significant concern for Arsenal, though. And your current overall leader, Schumacher SF7, right up here, clean track all by himself, 45% fuel right now, so Schumacher can stay out on the circuit for a long period of time right now. As Critical continues to lead in his class and in the GT fight, it is Scored Buffalo who continues to hold station over Brett. U5 has moved up into 3rd, though, as I believe the Ferrari has pitted, and that would be the Ferrari of larrybtheg. Yeah, and he's pitted just this lap, so a lot of drivers taking alternate pit stop strategies to try and run some laps in clean air so you're not being held up by other drivers. Larry will have to deal with some P2s catching him in a bit, but for now, it does not seem to be too much of an issue. Strangely enough, for Long Beach, we're used to seeing Long Beach races being full of yellow flags, but despite having an 18-car grid today, we have not had a yellow flag yet in this event, although drivers have definitely been smacking walls. This is ludicrous speed, as he now has LMP TVR get by him, and now here comes the DPIs for 3rd, that fight for 3rd in the DPIs. This is going to get interesting. Oh, Grizz, big sideways moment there. Tac's already by one of the LMP2s, and now Dino's gotten by ludicrous speed. Now he sets his sights on LMP TVR, and TVR knocks Tact sideways going into the corner, coming out of the straight, and Dino is right there behind, but I don't know if he's going to be able to capitalize. As we ride on board, and yeah, he's by them, Tac is still there. So this is still a very much active fight, because Tac is having a lot worse time trying to clear traffic than Dino is by the looks of it. Tac now held up behind the Porsche of TK. Oh, wow, a little bit of contact between the two of them, but Dino can't capitalize because he struggled to get onto the straightaway there. Meanwhile, in the GT category, is still Buffalo, but Brett continues to pressure him, and Buffalo continues to just knock down the walls like no one's business here. Did DPI just hit the wall? Yeah, Dino has hit the wall by the looks of it and has lost a bunch of time to attack, so that fight is now over. Buffalo holds position over Brett for the moment. We'll spin a lap riding on board with Brett around here so you get an idea what a lap is like in the GT cars around Long Beach. All right, and that is a lap on board. And there's goes Sunshine by in the P2 category now. P2 is only about as fast as the GTs in a straight line, but what helps them, though, is that they're faster going through the corners. Oh, and there goes Tact1cal Fall0ut. And we'll see Dino Prime likely close into the fray shortly here. There he is. Tact1cal Fall0ut trapped behind an LMP2, who is trapped behind a GT car. Sunshine now goes by the GT, and there goes Tact1cal Fall0ut as well. So for Tact1cal Fall0ut, doing his best to try and navigate through through traffic, a lot of traffic, and he is back into third and holding third in his category. The two drivers ahead of him have yet to make their first real stops. Arsenal did make the lap one stop because he is doing what's known as the Larry Perkins Challenge. Sunshine now sees Dino Prime closing in on him. Dino likely going to overtake the P2 going down the main straightaway. But just as that happens, Tact1cal Fall0ut will be catching more GT traffic ahead. And PSUK Brooksy has actually just gotten by that traffic. And that's Shredder and Prius Killer drivers who I believe have already made stops. Brooksy really struggling by the looks of it. Dino Prime not able to overtake Sunshine as soon as he wanted. So Dino, traffic is now starting to work against him and it's helping Tac maintain his position over his teammate. I'm sure now he's kicking himself saying, why didn't I commit? Why didn't I stay with it? Driver pitting, and that is ludicrous. No, that's scored Buffalo, who is pitted out of the race lead. Interesting decision, but he has made his stop, and this means that he will be, just barely, but he will be ahead of larrybtheg here. and will likely have clean track ahead. Or will he? No, Larry actually goes... That's Critical, I'm sorry. And there goes Arsenal. So no, larrybtheg is not having. That was DPI traffic. So Scored Buffalo will have clean track for the next segment of this race, while our overall leader is now Brett in the Chevrolet class. Chevrolet in the GT class. 60% fuel left, so there's still a lot of gas left in the GT category. And the GT drivers have not yet made their first... Well, our lead GT driver has not yet made his first stop. In the overall lead, though, it is still this man here, Schumacher SF7. But second overall, well, second overall, as he has overtaken the LMP2 leader, is Arsenal. And he will now quickly start closing in on Schumacher, we anticipate. But great job to Schumacher. With a solid call, he puts himself in a position that he was able to inherit the race lead and walk off with the lead of this race for some time. And it's been relatively clear for him for a large part of this, as he's already by another round of GT traffic. That is TJ leading Rockmar in ludicrous speed at the moment. TJ in the Porsche, rocking that Ferrari. You can see the rear wings knocked off. Don't run sim damage, it's feeling tires, so all these beans and bangs on the cars will not showcase actual wear and damage to the cars. It's not going to actually affect how they handle. Oh, TJ, really bad run, going onto the back straightaway, and here comes Rock. Side by side for the position, and it looks like the Ferrari will just barely nurse it ahead of the Porsche. Will the Porsche make a dive at the end of the braking zone? No, he will not. But he will cut in a little bit more aggressively, side by side coming out of the corner. Still side by side, but the Ferrari now has the track position advantage. The Porsche looks to the inside, throws it up, side by side again. They come onto the straightaway. Again, neck and neck. Rock may have just the advantage. TJ, though, has the shorter inside line. Rock will have the inside line coming into the braking zone. And it looks like Rock will back out of it because he doesn't want to run the risk of being side by side with the Porsche as they go into turn one. Oh, big! He just hit the inside curb real aggressive. It's going to upset the Porsche, but the Porsche stays ahead of the Ferrari for the moment. Schumacher has made his stop, and now falls to fourth overall in category. Oh, and into the tire barrier. Cold tires compromising his run. And there goes LMP TVR, and that will really not help Schumacher in his drive today. As cold tires see him lock up and go right into the tire wall. Thankfully, no one else was around, and he was able to back up and get going without issue. But your overall race leader now is back to being Arsenal. He has yet to make his first real stop of the day, though. As we look at his telemetry, or his damage, I should say, still has a quarter left in the tank. Critical, still second overall and leading in the class by a massive amount. And there's still a possibility that LMR Critical could win the race as a whole. But at this point, with Arsenal's speed, it's looking like he'll need some yellow flag in order to make that happen. Arsenal's not burning through his tires as aggressively as we thought he would. So his limiting factor is going to be just normal fuel pit stops. His lap times are not going to be falling off by significant amounts. Brooksy has just been overtaken by Dino Prime. Scored Buffalo, that is someone who could be the category leader. He gets overtaken by Brooksy and Dino. Actually might compromise that BMW's line a bit going into the corner, but not enough to really give him any problems at the moment. in the GT category. Brett continues to lead in the Chevrolet. U5 continues to lead in the other Chevy. Shredder gets by Prius Killer back there for 17th overall. Oh, and Prius goes into the wall. Looks like a single car incident, though. So we should be able to continue without issue. But that will put that GT driver a lap down. Of note, our last place driver in the P2 category, LMP Grizz, is still on the same lap as our DPI leader. And that leader, Arsenal, has yet to make what will be his first real stop of the race. U5 holding the inside and will let Arsenal by without too much issue there. I am curious if Arsenal will have a similar issue to what Schumacher had, where coming out of pits on cold tires, he might end up steering it into the tire barriers. But he continues to open the gap against Tact1cal Fall0ut right now. But this man here in the P2 category, Critical, is likely to inherit overall race lead when Arsenal does eventually make his first stop. GT drivers pitting. Who is that? That is Ludicrous Speed and TJ, who are both finally making their first stops of the race. So that means larrybtheg will move ahead of both of them. Scored Buffalo still has the advantage over them, and the Chevys of Brett and U5 continue to lead at this stage in the event. Now, as I say that, Brett has come into the pits. So U5 becomes your new race leader. So BMWs and Chevys have led all the laps thus far today. Radically different strategies for a lot of the drivers in all of the categories. U5 still has... this might not be great news for U5. Tires are going way faster than fuel on his Chevrolet. Here comes Critical, who is the P2 leader, coming up on the GT leader right now. But U5 may be limited not by fuel, but by tires, and I wonder if that may be why Brett pitted when he did as well. The good news for U5 is that he's in clean air right now, and other than faster traffic overtaking him, he should not have to worry too much about anyone else, because the next drivers he would be catching on merit. Yeah, Prius is not even close to him. Neither is TJ or Shredder or Ludicrous. Well, Ludicrous actually isn't that far away. Same with Rock and TJ. So there is a possibility, actually, that he could catch TJ and put him a lap down. TJ ran kind of slow there at the tail end of the lead lap in the GT category. But of note, TJ has already made his first stop. The stop here lasts for about 50 seconds. It's one of the longest pit lanes in the season, and that coupled with one of the shortest laps in the season also means that when you stop, there's a high risk that you could go a lap down here. There goes Critical, your LMP2 leader, cutting his way through the grid without too much issue. Arsenal, your overall leader and leader in DPI, still has to make what will be his first actual pit stop of the day, but he's not yet more than a full pit stop ahead of Tact1cal Fall0ut, but he's coming to that point dangerously quickly. Again, though, Arsenal stays out another lap. As we look at the telemetry, 7% fuel left, so he's going to have to come in this upcoming lap here. We're going to go ahead and ride silently for a lap on board with one of our LMP2 drivers, ideally. Yeah, well, maybe not. We'll wait a bit on that, actually. We'll take a range check on that. But we'll go ahead and ride silently for a lap on board Tact1cal Fall0ut, so you see what a lap is like in the Chevy DPI here around Long Beach. And that's a lap on board with Tact1cal Fall0ut. Oh boy, and he dumps him! He dumps U5 into the corner! And U5, who was the GT category leader, has been dumped out of the lead by Tact1cal Fall0ut! And that's going to massively negatively affect U5 going forward! That may put Buffalo in a fantastic position now, because Buffalo is within 50 seconds of U5. After making his stop, U5 has not made it, so yeah, U5 is now going to lose a bunch of time, and this could take him out of contention for the race win against Buffalo and Brett. The fight for second overall in the GT category looks like this right now, though. Brett continues to see Buffalo, but continues to be unable to do anything about him, despite the fact that he's had a bunch of laps in clean traffic. It's not mattered. Buffalo's also been running laps in clean air as well. Here's the other thing to watch. Arsenal, currently running third in category and fourth overall, closing in on the leaders in DPI of Dino Prime and Tact1cal Fall0ut, and Critical in the LMP2 category leads and has yet to make his first stop. Could probably still go another 2 laps if he wanted to as well. So Critical in the fight for overall lead still. As we ride on board with Arsenal, as he's trying to navigate his way through GT traffic right now. You see Rock, Shredder, Ludicrous Speed, TJ all ahead of him. All these GT cars, he's not going to be able to get by all of them coming into the braking zone. But the lack of downforce on the car means that he will outdrag everyone in the straights, but he keeps getting held up in the corners, but may not be as much of an issue due to the way the setup is. He's not losing as much time lap on lap compared to his normal pace while dealing with slower traffic in the corners, because he's already going to be a little slower than normal in the corners. In fact, taking this challenge of not having any tuning in this race at Arsenal may actually benefit him more than you may think. Arsenal now less than 8 seconds out from Dino Prime, who is second in DPI and third overall. Arsenal has already nearly made up his entire extra stop in just the first stint alone. Oh my god, are you serious? We may, so I'm not going to say it will happen, but we may finish this race before or at the same time that we run out of laps, because we've not had any yellow flags at all in today's event, period. It's just not happening. Mr. Sunshine, 8th overall, sees the DPI of Schumacher, who's just gotten by. Schumacher trying to get his way through LMP2 traffic as quickly as he can. Trying to recover after leading a bunch of laps earlier, went into a tire barrier coming out of pits. He sees PSUK Brooksy ahead of him. This could get interesting. Very nice move. Nearly a 3-wide overtake on a straight, and he's by Brooksy. Now his focus is on Grizz, and after he's by Grizz... Oh, wow, and Brooksy, what in the world is he doing? That was stupid. So Schumacher now behind Brett and Buffalo. who are the GT category leaders. Does he have a massive effect? I don't think he's going to have that much of an effect. He's already by Brett. He puts his focus on Buffalo now. Trying to outrun the BMW into the corner. And will just do it. Buffalo did have his momentum compromised a bit, though. And that is Tact1cal Fall0ut, who is about to put the LMP2, not the LMP2, the DPI of Schumacher a lap down. Schumacher misses the hairpin corner there. And yeah, Tact1cal Fall0ut's just cleared that entire group of cars. That is interesting because he's likely going to put Schumacher a lap down because Schumacher crashed coming out of pit lane earlier. Dino Prime going way around the outside. A scored. Buffalo makes contact. Brooksy is there. Brooksy makes a dive bomb on the DPI. He says, hey, look, I'm fighting against the DPIs. He doesn't care, even though they're on different laps right now. No, this is keeping Dino Prime behind Tact1cal Fall. In fact, opening the gap more between the two of them. Dino finally gets by Brooksy in the straight, but then Brooksy powers back through in a corner. And they're still side by side. Now, this is where the DPI will finally get by, but you get to see how the LMP2s really do have pace comparable to the DPIs. And with all that fighting, that's Arsenal in fourth, who is about to overtake Dino. He still has yet to make... Arsenal is going to overtake everyone despite not having to and making an extra stop because it's just that overpowered here. Arsenal powers by Brooksy now as Tact1cal Fall0ut pits out second. Critical pitting as well out of the lead of the race overall. So Dino Prime now leads. He led that lap. How long can he keep Arsenal behind him? I'm going to be honest, I don't think the answer is going to be very long. Arsenal has a significant straight line speed advantage. Dino trying to deny him inside line in the corners to hold him up in any way he can. He makes contact. They both go sideways. Here comes Brooksy again to cause havoc. Schumacher's in the wall farther up. Sunshine just barely avoids him. Schumacher just trying to stay on the lead lap in the DPI category. Arsenal now going to put Schumacher a lap down in the same class. Both these two closing on Mr. Sunshine in a straightaway now. Schumacher will get by Sunshine without too much issue. It looks like Arsenal easy with that low downforce setup. And he gets into Schumacher in the corner. Real bad run. So Arsenal being held up by Schumacher more than he was held up by the other Chevrolet of Dino Prime. Although we do anticipate that he'll get by here. Yep, we'll utilize that cut. And it'll be an easy overtake down the straight. So Schumacher officially goes a lap down in his category. Or no, Schumacher still has it over Arsenal. So these two are fighting a lot more aggressively than I thought they would. Schumacher keeps Arsenal behind him another lap. So Arsenal really being held up by the least likely car in the pack, and that's Schumacher. I don't think anyone's anticipating this, but Schumacher is proving to be the hardest person on track to overtake right now. He is doing everything he can to stay on the lead lap and is backed up Sunshine, who is faster than both these guys but can't get by them. Sunshine has now seen the rest of the P2 category getting backed up behind him as well. And Arsenal is losing time behind Schumacher. He's faster in the corners, but just not fast enough. Incredible! We know he's going to get by Schumacher at some point. It's inevitable, but it's taken 2 laps longer than we've anticipated. I can't believe it. This is the most active fight on the track, is this fight to keep for Schumacher to stay on the lead lap. And the longer Arsenal is being held up like this, it puts into question maybe Tact1cal Fall0ut or even Dino Prime. I think it's a little bit more likely it will be Tact1cal Fall0ut could come back into a potential fight for the race win. Schumacher continues to defend against Arsenal. Arsenal sends it hard onto the inside through that corner. Schumacher cuts back though. They're still side by side. Arsenal has the nose ahead. Schumacher, how aggressively does he go? He runs Arsenal just a little bit off circuit and squeezes him into the wall. Arsenal squeezed into the wall by Schumacher. And now Arsenal loses a bunch of time, and Schumacher is still on the lead lap. Now, I don't know how legal that's going to be considered post-race, but that was incredible. Arsenal still has not put the Ford DPI a lap down. And of note, all this fighting also could work out well in Critical's favor. Critical could end up putting a bunch of other LMP2 cars a lap down, because they're all backed up behind this group. And Critical, who's leading the P2 category, doesn't have to worry about that right now. And this also means that Critical still has a greater and greater chance to overtake Arsenal for the overall race lead. Again, Arsenal pulls up behind Schumacher. So now we're going to see them go at it again. We're about halfway through this event. Now here comes GT traffic. So Schumacher needs to properly navigate the GT traffic to keep Arsenal behind him if he wants to stay on the lead lap. But Schumacher has been putting on an amazing drive right now. Arsenal being very aggressive all over Schumacher. Schumacher trying, and they make contact again. That compromises both of them that time. And this works out more and more in the favor of the LMP2s and could bring Tact1cal Fall0ut into the fray here. And mind you, these two are on almost, not the exact same, but they're on very comparable pit stop strategies right now. Schumacher gets by Prius without issue. Here comes Arsenal. He's going to have a huge run on the Ford, and will probably get by him here. Sends it. Schumacher holds the inside line. Arsenal squeezes him, but Schumacher still is there. They make contact again as they go through. Schumacher again runs Arsenal off the ideal racing line. Arsenal, though, has a better exit out of the hairpin. Schumacher, though, already on the power, and Arsenal pits. He doesn't want to deal with Schumacher anymore. So Schumacher stays in lead stays on the lead lap for a little bit longer now. And this means Tact1cal Fall0ut may have a chance of getting back into the DPI category lead, and he is 2 seconds out from LMR Critical right now. So if he can get back by Critical, he'll take the lead back, but Critical is going to go back into the overall race lead. Yep, there goes Tact1cal Fall0ut. He should be overtaking the DPI there. And there is, 3 wide going down the straight. And that was leaders in all 3 categories at once. Critical gets in, Tact1cal Fall0ut has all 3 of our category leaders all on top of each other at the exact same point. Tact1cal Fall0ut goes back to the overall lead, but he will have to pit eventually, and Critical will likely inherit the overall lead, potentially. Oh! Wow, okay. Critical is fighting with Tact1cal for the overall race lead, and Tact hits the wall. He still holds the lead over Critical, but not by much. Critical is honestly making us a fight. So we're seeing fights between the LMP2s putting up serious battles against the DPIs because the LMP2s are saying, hey, we can actually fight for overall win or overall podium here. Crazy stuff. Dino Prime already passed by Arsenal again. So Arsenal completely demolishing all of his rivals in the same car, but has been the Ford DPI that has given him the most headache today. And if Arsenal loses this race, it's only going to be because Schumacher kept him held up for a solid 3 laps and forced Arsenal to have to get off strategy. As now he starts closing in on the GT category, U5, who is 4th overall in GT. Yeah, this has not worked out well for Arsenal because now he's trapped behind GT cars going through the fountain section, and this is one of the hardest places to overtake anybody at. He'll go ahead and make the early braking to try and get by them here, so he will start overtaking. But again, this has just gone horrible for Arsenal. He has lost so much time behind Schumacher, and now when he pitted, he's back dealing with GT traffic again. That's larrybtheg giving him struggle, and there's the fight for the GT category lead. Brett and Buffalo again ahead. Easy overtake by Arsenal to get by Brett and Buffalo. And the DPI of Dino will do the same without too much. Should I say that? Dino bounces off the inside wall, then knocks Brett just a bit aside. BMW hasn't led all laps today, but he has been the one on top throughout the majority of today's race. GT still has yet to make one more stop for their entire category. But that Chevrolet GT of Brett seems to be losing touch slowly with Buffalo as this race goes on. And that's been the big problem with Buffalo. He's been the weakest in the first stage of the race, but as the event goes on, he seems to get stronger and stronger. And U5's dump into the wall by Tact1cal Fall0ut has not helped him at all. In the LMP2 class, Brooksy is last, Grizz is 4th, TVR is 3rd, Sunshine is 2nd. And there's a big gap between Sunshine and this man here, Critical, who continues to lead in the LMP2 category. And he's been putting category rivals down laps at this stage in the event. We stayed green this entire race. That's not to say we've not had incidents, but all the accidents we've seen thus far today have been single car. As you see, Grizz now gets by the Ford GT of ludicrous speed there. And Critical can see Arsenal back there behind. Arsenal is the man that Critical is fighting for overall race win. So Critical, ideally, if he wants to get the overall race win, needs to stay ahead of that Chevrolet DPI if he can. Again, Critical sees Grizz ahead, trying to put the driver who is 3rd overall in LMP2 class a lap down, and this has happened because the LMP2 field was pretty heavily backed up behind Schumacher and Arsenal's fight overall, so they were not able to try and open the gap against Critical. In fact, they were actually losing time to Critical, who was running in relatively clean air in the meanwhile. And this has had a massive knock-on effect in the P2 class, I think more than any other category. Again, Critical is closing, but Arsenal is just about there. It'd be in Critical's interest, I imagine, to try and just let Arsenal by and hope that Arsenal gets held up by that P2 for just a little bit. Because again, this race has been very unique in that P2, the P2 of Critical, is fighting for overall race win. Shredder making a pit stop now in the GT category. Arsenal's already overtaken Grizz. That's the GT of larrybtheg. Critical will have to just be aware of him coming out of pits. But it won't be anything too problematic. This is second overall in LMP2. Is this man here, Mr. Sunshine, and it's looking like he may be in a good position to not go a lap down in category. This has been his strongest run thus far this season. Most of his finishes have been third places, but he could fight for a second in class today. Now, with no Anonyms running in today's event, this could let him start, or at least try to start closing in the LMP2 title fight. Brett continues to run second in the GT fight, but he's losing ground to the BMW. It's not by large amounts, but he's losing about a foot every second lap, and that is starting to add up. Here goes the DPI of Schumacher, who still is on the lead lap more than halfway through this event. Little fights throughout the entire field right now. We're going to go ahead and ride on board silently for, well, a lap on board with LMP TVR. Just not TVR, I guess. Critical in the P2s. The only flag. Okay, well, I missed it. I'll come back to that later then, I guess. But Critical has now set another LMP car that's Grizz a lap down, and TVR will be the next one to go a lap down in that category. Critical's now fallen to fourth overall, though, as the top three DPIs have overtaken him. But Critical only has one more stop left. The DPIs only have two. Leading overall is Tact1cal Fall0ut. And Arsenal, second overall, is closing. This is a fight for position. %71% left in the tank for Arsenal. For Tact1cal Fall0ut, it is 52%. But Tact1cal Fall0ut has led a significant number of laps. In fact, all of our DPI drivers have led laps today, so this has actually been our most competitive day in the DPI class that we've had in all of the races thus far. You absolutely love to see that. Again, these two, Tact1cal and Arsenal, are fighting against the leading LMP2 car, Critical, to try and stay ahead of him overall, so and still, you know, keep the DPIs ahead of the P2s in this race. That's Sunshine paying out second in the LMP2 class, so he will go a lap down now. Still no yellow flag, shockingly, in today's race. In the fight for second, for the lead in the GT category, Brett has closed in a small amount on Buffalo, but is not able to do anything to the BMW. It has been a very, very strategy-focused day at the top in the GT category, and these drivers still have to make their final stop. Buffalo made his first stop early, the earliest out of our current top 3 in the GT class. Then Brett, then U5. U5 stayed out and actually ended up losing time after being dumped by Tact1cal Fall0ut. U5 has actually made up most of that time that he's lost, though, in pace, but he's still behind these two. And now the gap's opening up as the P2 traffic backs up Brett in the fountain section. Fourth in GT category is currently Rockmaro here. He has yet to make his final stop of this race as well. Front tires burning down. And basically everyone in the GT category, except for the top 2, have massive gaps amongst them. Top 3, I should say. U5 starting to close in on Brett. So today, the fight of interest has most definitely been in the LMP2 and DPI category. And speaking of which, Arsenal can now see Tact1cal Fall0ut. So this is about to become a fight for the lead. Dino Prime has not been able to put up any fight against Arsenal. Schumacher has put up the strongest fight against Arsenal thus far. What can Tact1cal Fall0ut do against Arsenal? This is the fight for the overall race lead. Arsenal faster in a straight line than his rival Chevrolets. We know that for a fact. Not going to make a move down the back straightaway, not this time. Of note, Tact1cal will have to pit sooner than Arsenal, though, just due to the way the fuel numbers have been working out. They pull up behind the LMP2, LMP TVR, and easily overtake and go around the outside. Arsenal again slaps the outside wall. He's done that a bunch of times today, going down the main straight. And you can see the LMP2 chomping at the bit to get back by the DPIs because he's faster throughout this section of the racetrack. Tact denies Arsenal the line that he's been preferring most of this day. So Tact starting to put up a fight similar to what we saw Schumacher putting up earlier. Difference is, though, that Schumacher was fighting to stay on the lead lap. Tact is fighting for the overall race win. Again, draft works out in the favor of that number 29 machine. But that back straight does not seem to be long enough for Arsenal to try and make a dive into the corner. If Arsenal's going to overtake Tact, he's either going to get him coming out of the fountain section if Tact has a bad run coming out of there, or he'll get him on the run into turn 1 like this lap. As Tact1cal burnt off a bunch of speed coming out of there, the rear tire is completely lit up. Arsenal is already closing back down, using draft and just less downforce, less drag. He looks to the extreme outside. Tact's going to just take a normal defensive line. Arsenal can't get by, but he's right there behind the leading DPI again. Tact could not deny Arsenal his ideal line this time. So it's a drag race, and Tact pulls aside. And it's over, potentially. Tact is right behind Arsenal's rear bumper through there. Power down, Arsenal starts opening the gap again. This is the last corner. If Tact wants to make this work, he's going to have to do it through here. He can't. Arsenal's pie. And Arsenal goes back into the overall race lead. Only took him the better part of over an hour, but he's done it. Schumacher at the moment is 6th overall, last in the DPI category. But, to his credit, he has stayed on the lead lap significantly longer than we anticipated after nosing into the tire barrier earlier. And he's going to overtake LMP TVR here as TVR is in the pits. He is a lap down at this point in the event, sadly, but it has been a fantastic drive by the lone Ford DPI in today's event. He runs behind Dino Prime at the moment. These two are on alternate pit stop strategies, though. Schumacher has just recently come out of the pits. Dino, who is 2nd overall, has yet to make what will likely be his final stop. Our leading P2 driver, Critical, trying to navigate his way through GT traffic again. He has already made his final stop of the day. So P2 is the only category we've not ran on board with in today's race. So what we're going to do is we're going to go silent for a lap. I'm right on board with LMR Critical here around Long Beach, so you get an idea of how much faster the P2s are throughout the first and final bits of here at Long Beach. So yeah, Critical putting on a respectively strong run, but it's looking vanishingly less and less likely that he is going to be able to win this race overall, because at this stage in the event, he is a lap down. Although our DPI leader has yet to make his final stop, while Critical is fine on stops. Only Arsenal and Tact1cal Fall0ut are both on the lead lap. Tact1cal Fall0ut more than 50 seconds out from Arsenal, though, meaning that Arsenal has the ability to make his final stop whenever he wants and will not have to worry about losing the lead. That's some intense fighting between a BMW and a Porsche there. Shredder and TJ fighting for 14th overall, so that's 6th in GT class. In the pits, that is Grizz, who is last in LMP2. U5 leads at the moment, but only by 40 seconds. And he has yet to make his final stop. Scored Buffalo in second at the moment with Brett behind him, and it's been this way most of the day. The GT category has honestly been the least interesting to watch, I hate to say. Complete inverse of Coda last week, where the prototypes were, nothing was going on, and the GTs had all the fun. Here, there has been a little bit of fight in the GT category, but not anything that really matters. Brett's been behind Buffalo all day, but has not once come close to even putting a serious fight against him for the race lead. Credit to Brett, he has kept up with Buffalo much better today than what we saw at Coda last week, where he gradually fell off in the final stint. But yeah, scored Buffalo at the moment. He is 40 seconds behind U5. We're anticipating that when U5 pits, he's going to end up back behind these guys once again. Buffalo and Brett have already both made their final stops of the day. Oh, wow. Schumacher had a bad braking zone going into there, and that brings Brett up into Buffalo. So he's there. Brett had a chance and can't do anything with it. That was the best shot Brett was probably going to have, and he ended up losing the exact same amount of time through the fountain section that Buffalo lost going into there, being held up by that Ford. We're still waiting on our race leader, RZM Arsenal, to make his final stop of the day. And it's likely he will make it as late as possible. So I did freak out a little earlier and say that we might end up going through all the laps before we ran out of time. That is wrong. That is not going to happen, although it did come a lot closer to that happening than I thought it did. No yellow flags here at Long Beach. We definitely had incidents, but no yellow flags. A lot of single car incidents with drivers going into barriers, but that's been the worst of it. Following Dino, who is third overall in DPI. Once again, we turn our fight to the GT category. U5 has made a stop and has dropped him back to 4th in class. No, I'm sorry, U5 has not made his stop yet. He's actually opened up the gap just a small amount. It's now just 8-second difference between U5 and Scored Buffalo. U5 still has yet to make his final stop. Will likely try and make it as late as possible. Brett still hanging out behind the BMW, but has not made a serious attempt to overtake Buffalo this entire day. I'll give credit to U5. He is opening the gap in his favor, but it's not opening fast enough. And when he makes a stop, it's extremely likely, almost guaranteed, that Buffalo will get back ahead of him. Pretty much all the other GT battles are done, and PSUK Brooksy, I missed it somewhere, but PSUK Brooksy has dropped out. We're still waiting on this man to make his final stop, but it is unlikely that when he makes his final stop, he will end up losing this overall race lead to either Tact1cal or Critical. Critical, to his credit, has lapped nearly the entire LMP2 field. Only Sunshine is still on the lead lap. I'm sorry, TVR is barely on the lead lap also right now. Yeah, TVR has actually gotten back onto the lead lap somehow. Has TVR just not made his final stop, or did I miscalculate somewhere? I may have miscalculated. No, TVR has made his final stop. Okay, so TVR is actually back on the lead lap. But still, it has been a fantastic drive, though, by Critical. He will be 4th overall, leading in the P2 class. Mr. Sunshine, it's not a win, but this will be a great points day for him, and will let him close in the points gap just a bit on Anonyms. Same with Critical. But I think Sunshine is a little bit more likely to be able to take the championship fight down to the wire here. It's just me, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. And there we are, Brett. Still behind Buffalo, because U5 has made his stop, and as anticipated, it has dropped him behind the top 2 by a significant amount. If he did not get knocked into the tire barrier earlier, I think U5 could have a serious shot at the win, or at least fighting for second. But being knocked into the tire barrier by Tact1cal Fall0ut has most definitely taken him out of contention for this win. And Brett has just not been able to do anything to Buffalo as Buffalo continues to open up and get faster and faster as the stints go on. Every now and again, that BMW gets held up by a slowish DPI or P2, but Brett not been able to do a single thing to the BMW driver. Arsenal has finally made his stop. He is still 11.3 seconds ahead of Tact1cal Fall0ut, so it will be a DPI, will end up winning the race overall, mainly off the back of there being no yellow flags in today's event. Unexpected, but possible. Critical is going to finish, though, on the lead lap in relation to the rest of the DPIs. So incredible job on his part. As we continue to watch this fight for GT to the end. It's not really much of a fight. It's been this way pretty much the entire in this class. We're in the final 10 minutes of the race now. So it'll be about 10 laps to go. Looks like this is over. Now I've turned focus onto this, of course. Brett has completely lost touch with that BMW of Scored Buffalo. U5 is starting to close back in on Brett, but there's just not going to be enough time for him to really do anything. And the GT class, it seems like at the top at least, everyone's been just good enough that no one's been able to get by for any position. No, the people in this category just haven't made any self-inflicted mistakes for the people behind to make anything happen. In the rest of the GT category, though, it's been kind of a mess. LarryBtheg has come home in 4th. He's not had the capability to keep up with the leaders, but he's not been anywhere close to losing that position. 5th in GT has been this man, unanticipatedly. Rockmaro in the Ferrari is going to walk out here with 5th overall by the looks of it. Then TJ in the Porsche, definitely overperforming. He's going to come home 6th in category. Shredder in the BMW, 7th, way off of where we were expecting him. 8th, Prius Killer. And that's the crazy thing, because Prius has had at least 2 accidents today, and he's coming back to finish 8th. And 9th, Ludicrous Speed. This has been his worst showing thus far this season. Somehow the gap's closed again. Brett, it seems like every time I look away, Brett closes in on Buffalo a bit. Interesting fight for 5th overall, as Mr. Sunshine has actually been closing. Well, not closing, but it's for 6th overall, I'm sorry, and 2nd in category, but TVR is closing, or trying to close on Mr. Sunshine. And Critical, who is 4th overall, could take an overall podium position if anything happens to Dino Prime, who is not quite 7 seconds ahead. Arsenal in the end is going to win this race by about 15 seconds overall by the looks of it. Boy, Arsenal backed up Brett to U5 quite a bit there. Every time Arsenal catches this GT fight, it seems to be in a position that really favors Buffalo and harms Brett. As again, we look at our podium drivers in the GT category. Not likely we're going to see any overtakes here, but all it takes is one of these drivers being held up or having their run ruined by a LMP2 or DPI driver. And that is a DPI in the form of Schumacher SF7 about to close in on them there. He's already by U5. Now he's closing in on Brett and Buffalo once again. Brett's the closest to Buffalo he's been for a little while. Half a second. Schumacher will easily overtake both of them down the straight, no problem. Backs up the BMW just a bit under braking. Brett again closes in. Less than 3.5 minutes left. Oh, contact! Buffalo and Schumacher make contact, and Brett takes the lead! And Brett finally takes the lead in GT category! With less than 5 minutes left in this, less than 4 minutes left in the session, Brett takes the lead after scored Buffalo and Schumacher SF7 make contact! And Brett now has gotten by, and now the BMW goes hard into the wall, and U5 is involved as well! Scored Buffalo, and U5 had a gigantic accident! And scored Buffalo gets knocked off track by 2 DPIs in 2 corners in a row, and Buffalo will fall to 3rd, and it's going to be Brett who's going to walk out here with the win potentially. Oh my goodness! And that is why it's not over until it is over. As a fight that has been nose to tail with no movements all today between Buffalo and Brett turns out to be decided by a faster category, 2 mistakes by faster category drivers, and Brett finally gets lucky, and now he just needs to keep everything straight for these final closing laps. U5 is more than 2 seconds out, so it should work out in Brett's favor here, because we have 2 minutes left, so roughly 2 laps left in GT category. 2 laps now, that is. They'll finish this lap and probably get 1 more lap in. That's been the biggest accident we've had all day. U5 is closing. It's down to 1.8 seconds. U5 might smell blood in the water. The thing is that Brett has clean track ahead. Won't have to worry about anything. Of note, Dino Prime has actually lost time to the P2s. The P2s are faster than Dino at the moment. That's TVR and Critical. Critical fighting for a potential overall podium spot. He's there. Dino is struggling. He's still faster in a straight line, but it's not enough because Critical has been closing. And Critical, is he going to get by Dino here? He's right behind Dino Prime. This is a fight for third overall. Time is nearly up. Again, DPIs have a great advantage in the straightaways, and that may be the only thing that keeps this DPI ahead of Critical's LMP2 machine. Oh, but Critical is so much faster in literally every corner here. Time's up. In the GT category, this is it. U5 is close to 1.2 seconds out from Brett. Chevrolet looks like it's going to be another 1-2, 1-2 across the board. Critical, can he get by Dino? It looks like the gap's opened up in Dino's favor. Arsenal still has to finish this lap. So for Critical, this is going to be it. I think Critical's not going to be ahead of Dino, though, in the end, although Dino has lost a embarrassing amount of time in this final stint to the LMP2 cars. Well, anyways, in the lead for the LMP2 class, LMR Critical fought for overall race win, but no yellow flags mean that he could not properly take it. But Critical will take home victory in the LMP2 class and fourth overall. But your overall race winner will be this man, RZM Arsenal. And in the GT category, fortune favors the lucky, I guess. Fortune favors a few, as Brett has to just finish out the remaining half a lap over U5 in order to take home victory. Coming down to the line. U5 has closed the gap from 2 seconds to 1.2, but has not gotten any closer. And Scored Buffalo, who led most of the day, has fallen to third after hiccups, just normal multi-class hiccups, end up compromising the GT category more than the top class. And Brett takes home the win. U5 brings it home second. Scored Buffalo will come home in third position. Larry B the fourth. Rockmar will be fifth. TJ will be sixth. Shredder seventh. Ludicrous eighth and last in that category. And that brings us to an end up to today's race. All right, trying to get our various winners and podium finishers into the party here. First up, we have the GT category here. I want to go ahead and talk with you guys because your fight didn't get decided until the very end. RZ and Brett, you are the winner in GT. Go ahead, include your audio. Fantastic drive, keeping behind the BMW all day. But in the end, it was not a move you made, but mistakes by other classes that gave you the victory. What do you have to say about that run, Brett?
Yeah, it was a fun win. Lots of chaos at the end there was scored. Had some traffic issues, so to be able to pull ahead and just assume the lead and keep it for those final few laps was pretty intense. I was there all race, just couldn't really get around them, and I needed a mistake out of them, and it came in traffic, so
Well, mate, it was a fantastic drive, though. You were within about 2 seconds of him all day long. If that accident didn't happen, do you think you could have made a move or something on the last lap, or was that only going to happen due to someone else's mistake?
Yeah, I think today I was gonna have to rely on a mistake, or other effects. Uh, I just didn't have enough pace to get by him. I just had enough pace to match him. So, without those incidents at the end, he uh probably would have held the lead till the end there.
All right, well, fortune sometimes smiles upon you, and it definitely smiled upon you today. Don't take this for granted. Don't start investing in Bitcoin like Matt Damon says and lose all your money. But fortune smiled on you. Great job on the victory, mate. I want to talk to our second place finisher in GT, U5. U5, you got caught up in that late race accident among the leaders, but you still came home second. What do you have to say about your race today?
Chaotic. I will say it was chaotic. I I'll be honest, I felt like I had pace, but every here and there I kept either getting a mistake or I was getting hit. I just never caught a break. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad I got second, but not the way I wanted to. And just, yeah.
Well, the good news is this will help you close in a bit in the overall points championship on Buffalo, and you maintain the highest average finishing position of everyone in the GT category right now. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be that upset about it.
I can't, but definitely didn't get that challenge because I didn't even get to stay in third for that first lap. So the extra points would have helped, but at the end of the day, I got second.
All right. Well, great job, mate. Fantastic watching you bring it home there. And again, I'm still trying to get invited our LMP2 victors. I'm not having any luck there. I do want to go ahead and talk with our DPI guys. Real quickly, I want to talk with our first place finisher, Schumacher SF7. Schumacher, fantastic drive from you today. You were the only person out there who seemed to have the ability to properly... Oh, Arsenal says no interview. Schumacher, you're the only person today who had the ability to keep Arsenal behind you for any period of time today. What do you have to say about that run from you? Yeah, but here's the thing. Arsenal could not overtake Schumacher on track. I know Arsenal won the race. That's not what I'm talking about. Schumacher, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man. Yeah. Basically,
Yeah,
I said to myself, if he's going to get past, he's got to do something drastic. And I was closing the door. I was closing the door very harshly. I don't give a donkeys. It's the way it goes. So if he wanted to get past, that's what he would have had to done. Do something drastic, but he couldn't. And he chickened out and went in the pits. Get past.
Right, well, you brought home a fourth place finish overall in category, so still last. However, significant improvement. Can we anticipate a continuation of closing from you to the rest of the grid going forward today?
Just got to put in the time and the practice. Like everyone else has got 5 years experience on this game compared to me. I've done 23 hours, so yeah, not that far off. I'll take that.
All right. Well, either way, mate, great drive today. Come home 5th overall, 4th in class. Good job. Now I want to go ahead and talk with second place finisher overall, Tact1cal Fall0ut. Tact, you led the most laps today overall, but throughout the majority of today's race, it was really unknown who was going to win. If it was going to be you, if it was going to be Arsenal, if it was going to be Dino, or if it was going to be a P2 driver. In your opinion, what kind of decided things in the end for this race?
Well, Dino, I know for sure didn't have a setup. He borrowed my setup, so that was kind of like handicapping him in a way because he just wasn't uncomfortable with the car. So unfortunately, my teammate wasn't able to, really be much faster than he was. I really wish he could have been faster and maybe actually faster because he probably could have challenged Arsenal a little bit better than me. But I mean, the only thing that screwed me was the wall after the fountain one that we cut. I forget what corner that is, but That one, I hit the wall too many times, and one time it actually stunned me a good bit, and the car stalled on me when I tried taking off. So I have a feeling that definitely had a reason to do with it, as to why I wasn't able to capitalize. But I mean, stuff happens, I guess. I'm a little disappointed that I wasn't able to win, because this definitely was like the only race that I could have probably beaten Arsenal in.
Right. Well, it was still a fantastic run from you either way, leading the most laps, starting near the front. Really strong hold on this race overall. I do want to ask, though, you pitted significantly earlier than anyone else in your category. Was that strategy, or were you just trying to get clear from other people, or what went into that idea? What went into that call?
Well, I tried to see if I could, maybe get a good, pit strategy going, knock all three out, and it just kind of was like the only thing that matters is the pitting at the end. And the thing is that if you can stay ahead of the curve of the pits, and with how this pit dumps you out, it literally dumps you out at like 5 miles an hour, maybe 10. But you were almost at a complete standstill when you go to get moving, and it's just crazy with that pit exit that, if you're already moving and you're able to keep a close distance on the guy in front of you, you could theoretically, if he goes in, you could blow past him because you've already pitted. So that was honestly the really big goal, try to see if I could just, stay ahead of the curve of pitting, and I was ahead, but I just couldn't keep the pace up.
Right, understandable. Either way, mate, another second place finish after the one you had Sabering. Great job today, mate. And hopefully you get to see more solid runs from you again next week when we go to Laguna Seca.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And that seems to be it, as none of our LMP2 drivers and not even our DPI winner are going to be willing to jump in and talk with us, it would appear. But that will pretty much wrap up our broadcast here today from Long Beach. I do want to say thank you very much, everyone, for joining today for what has been a very interesting and bizarre race. And we look forward to seeing you guys in a week's time at Laguna Seca in our final race in the state of California. Until then, farewell and goodbye.